No need for you to panic. No need for you to...
Exactly. I'm always worried when it rains in the morning, especially because you see lots of children going to school,
Right.
and the struggle for transportation becomes even worse.
Right.
You know, but it's been beautiful the entire week. We're in the middle of the week now.
Yeah.
And we're slowly approaching the end of September.
And what is beautiful, like you mentioned, is the fact that we are not experiencing the rains as we used to. And especially during this period when pupils are taking their exams, especially those trying to transition into university and all of that. And I think that's a bit helpful.
I mean, you would say it's beautiful we're not having rains, but I'm sure the farmers and people cultivating water would have problems with that. But it's the time of the rain, so I always say we should expect rain, but we're grateful that for the most part it's been a lovely week. And it rained, you know, sometime in the afternoon yesterday for a short period, but it wasn't too bad, and we didn't see lots of chaos in the city as usual. You know, but it's been a good week.
It has been. I mean, I'm sure it has been. The fact that you continue to lay emphasis on the fact that it has been a good week.
Yes, I was unwell for a brief period and I'm feeling much stronger.
So
I'm happy about that.
Right. All right. Good morning and welcome to this midweek edition. Thank you for joining us here on Wake Up Sierra Leone, your only reliable show where you get all the latest happenings, actions, undertakings across Sierra Leone, and of course we give you sometimes just a bit of things happening across the continent. So as you prepare for work or probably stuck in traffic, because this is Freetown, we are always struggling with traffic. Maybe you're trying to just get off bed, as always. It's always a tiring thing to do. Enjoy your cup of coffee or tea with us. That will definitely get you through the day. We appreciate your time for tuning in to the show. My name is Samuel Weisbangura.
And my name is Antonia Howard. I hope you'll stay with us throughout the show as we take you through 2 hours of information and entertainment here on AYV Television, Channel 33. And don't forget, you can always find us on DSTV, Channel 399, or if you're driving and you want to follow up with the program, you can tune into 101.7 FM on the radio and enjoy the program as you drive to work or your place of business. You can also move over to the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page where we're streaming live, and share your thoughts with us right there on the Facebook page in the comment section.
Right, today we have very interesting conversations for you this morning. But before jumping into them, as always, let's first bring you highlights of some of the top stories in our primetime news, and we'll be right back.
EDSA presents a budget of 1.3 trillion to Ministry of Finance for 2022 to 2023 fiscal year.
To provide reliable and sustainable power supply in terms of also increasing access to certain communities, Hastings, beyond Waterloo, Devils, there are certain areas that are still not being covered by EDSA. To pursue loss reduction by 5% and allocating resources for a minimum investment of 100 billion in the distribution, supply, and commercial infrastructure. So we are also looking at every year we want to make the concerted effort to reduce the line losses. And when we reduce the line losses, right, it improves our revenue, and then it gives the ability of EDSA to evacuate more power to communities that are require or want those power. To improve on the corporate governance structure.
The key highlights of the EDSA budget is, one, we notice that EDSA services are fundamental for government, and in terms of the macro-wide efficiency of the economy, their outputs will translate directly into increased productivity. One, if they minimize their losses and their costs, it will help the economy to be productive, to help the economy to generate more real output, which is beneficial. But we have not seen that 100%. We see that time consistency in their revenue projection has not been coming forth. They have been projecting higher revenues, but at the end of the day, their actual collection has fallen short of their projection. But at the same time, riding back on their higher revenues, expenditures have been growing quite sharply, which we think is not credible. So we have noted those fundamental points in their budget submission. And the next thing is we want their budget to be more comprehensive.
3 political parties disassociate themselves from the consortium of progressive political parties.
Dissociation of the C4C party from the signing of the MOU of COP signed by Dr. Sandy, injuncted by the High Court of Sierra Leone. The C4C party is an independent, legally registered political party in Sierra Leone. Dr. Sandy and other members of the party have been injuncted by the High Court of Sierra Leone and from taking and carrying out any activity of the C4C party pending the determination of the matter before the court. Hence, Damba R. Sandy signing the COP MOU is not only considered a violation of the court orders, the court injunction, and thereby bringing the party's image into disrepute, but also views his activities as illegal.
The People's Democratic Party PDP survey, press statement. This association from the impersonation made by the former Secretary General Al-Haji Ben Kamara and Al-Mami Bangura on a non-conventional member to sign a memorandum of understanding on the 13th September 2021 with the so-called consortium of progressive political parties, without the attention of the National Executive Committee of the PDP survey. The PDP survey party is seriously angry over the impersonation of a man by the name of Al-Mami Bangura, who is not a member of our beloved party, going and signing documents claiming to be the head of the party. This man, Al-Mami Bangura, has never been a member of our party and is collaborating with the suspended National Secretary General Al-Haji Ben Kamara.
Frabe College Students' Union government launches campaign against exam malpractice.
Country, administrators, parents, and those of us that are students aren't ready to fight against it. I am afraid the very object of education would be affected. And you may not want to leave the university and go down and they ask you, which university are you coming from? And you tell them, I'm coming from Frabe College, and they make a statement. Their products aren't performing at all.
We have seen that students who have engaged in examination malpractice all through, when they leave university through that process, they can't deliver when they go down. And we know that Frabe College is responsible to provide the human resource of this nation. It is the backbone of this particular nation. And if we come here as students and engage in exam malpractice, what do we hope to deliver? What do we hope to give out there when we become leaders tomorrow? So for us, we think that it is most important that we engage students to see reasons as to why we all should not engage in exam malpractice. It was once said that if you want to destroy a nation, you do not need an atomic bomb, you do not need a missile, just kill education.
It means the fact that we want to lobby around the administration to extend the examination date. We believe that students as well have a responsibility, especially during examination, and that is not to engage in any form of examination malpractice.
Right, those were some of the top stories in the news. Coming up in the show this morning, Government of Sierra Leone through the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education is introducing an anti-corporal punishment initiative in schools which seeks to reinforce a ban on corporal punishment. We'll be discussing the move this morning.
Right, and also we'll be discussing the importance of the right on justice and the right to fair trial in today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone.
Right, our quote for today says, excessive power leads to dictatorship. Our constitution must promote democracy, not authoritarian. That quote comes from Nafil Mustafa, a writer and social activist. And with that, let's take the short message from our sponsor, Rokel Commercial Bank. We will be right back.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Get all your breaking, factual and balanced local and international news from AYV Direct to your mobile phone via SMS. To subscribe on AfriCell, send star to 298 and stay connected for only 300 leones per day.
Right, welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television. Don't forget to send your comments and questions to the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page where we're streaming live.
Right now, in a very first conversation this morning, the government of Sierra Leone through the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education is introducing an anti-corporal punishment initiative in schools which seeks to reinforce a ban on corporal punishments. The policy, according to the ministry, promotes positive discipline methods in all schools across the country, thereby replacing harsh punishments students go through. According to the Strengthening Accountability Building Inclusion SABI report, almost all 89% students report that they are flogged in schools. Being flogged in more than once a week is the common frequency reported by 56% of students. So this morning, to discuss the move by the government, we have with us Augustine Bami Anthony, Communications Officer, Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. And we have Joseph Sano, Executive Chair for IL Sierra Leone. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, good morning.
All right, and in our studio too, we have Sylvester Mew, former chairman of the Conference of Principals of Secondary Schools. Mr. Mew, good morning and welcome to Wake Up Sierra Leone.
Good morning.
Right. Let's start off. Bami, let's have an update with regards to the move. I know Cabinet has approved the initiative. So take us through, first off, what really prompted that policy to be tabled in Cabinet, and now we've gotten an approval to kick away corporal punishment.
Thank you very much, Samuel. I want to seize this opportunity to inform viewers that we, as a Ministry of Education, have not put out any policy on anti-corporal punishment. We have not announced to listeners, parents, to the general public that we are removing corporal punishments now. What we have done is to announce to the general public that we have tabled a very suitable concept note to Cabinet. And Cabinet has discussed that lengthily and have resolved to giving us the approval to continue to work on developing the policy on corporal punishment, developing handbook that will provide alternative discipline methodologies, and we are also working towards tabling that to Parliament to ensure that it has the full backing of the law. So that is what we have done. What we have done in the press release is to inform the general public that there is a course that we want to pursue in this matter.
So government has given its consent to doing away with corporal punishment. Cabinet has approved. Now you're putting the policy together, and you also want Parliament to ratify that so that it becomes law. Now, what were the dangers? Were there threats? Because for many human rights advocates, that was violence against, students. Students were being physically assaulted by teachers, but it was legal because corporal punishment is part of, the structures in our schooling system. Where and what were the threats to when we were implementing that particular law?
Yes, I just had you read the press release in summary.
Yes.
And you also agreed with me from the press release that SABI report, the survey that they conducted, spoke to the fact that 83% of kids in school reported have suffered from corporal punishment. I want you to also understand, and viewers, that the dangers of corporal punishment outweigh by far the benefits that people think it is. So, and we have introduced the radical inclusion policy as a ministry, a policy that gives the kind of platform for every child, be you poor, be you rich, be you living in the rural community or far to rich areas, be you disabled, be you pregnant, are all equal in the space of learning. So if for any reason we have started receiving reports telling us informing us that our kids, we really want to provide a kind of atmosphere for learning, a conducive one, are suffering, are being threatened by corporal punishment, then it's a concern for the ministry. So that's the very step the ministry has taken to see how we try to eradicate it if it is an impediment to the full implementation of the radical inclusion policy. We'll come to talk about the dangers to learning, corporal punishment to learning when the discussion.
All right, Joseph Sano, let's have a remark from you with regards, during your monitoring process across schools, what have you been able to identify as problems relating to corporal punishment?
Well, I think there have been several problems and challenges in the dispensing corporal punishment. Most of the time when you use especially harsh punishment, I see some punishment that are not really harsh. I see punishment when maybe you can ask the child to get up, stand, turn to the wall. I've seen that in classes. Stand up, I've seen that in classes. Go outside, I've seen that in classes. I've seen kneel down, I've seen that in classes. And I've seen also where you use the cane to flog the child. And sometimes in the process, maybe you might end up leaving or wounding the child. Those are things I know we all went through. We all went through this there. So most of the time, kids will be afraid to come to school when the issue of corporal punishment, when they think about it. Of course, when I was going to school, when we were going to school, when we were doing the literature, and I remember you have to memorize, you have to cram everything, and you have hot mentor in the morning.
Right.
But I've seen still that being included, that is happening in schools, not only up country, but even inside Freetown here. And there's sometimes you come to school late. I've been there where teachers will flog you and for coming to school late. So a lot of these things are happening. So what happens, some kids, when they come to school late, they don't pass by the main road. I've seen kids jumping over. I've seen kids escaping from school, escaping from school. And when they are caught, they are being flogged. So a lot of these things, noises, people, a prefect writing the names of kids in school and presenting it, and people, and they are asked to pay some money. And if you do not pay money, you do cleaning, or maybe you are flogged. And even some teachers, we've seen in scenarios where teachers, we force students to buy their handout, and they make some food, and they come with the food to the schools. If you do not buy it, it's a problem for you. So a lot of these things are happening in schools. I was thinking, if they happen here, that is the capital city, how much more outside and hard to reach community? What is happening there?
Let me ask this question to Bami. When the ministry proposed this to cabinet, did the ministry have a definition of what constitutes corporal punishment? Because in general speaking terms, one might just limit it to flogging, caning, with the ratlan, which is a common instrument used across schools and even in homes. So what are those kinds of punishments that fall under this category?
Yeah, well, at the risk of imagining what will be in the handbook, I will generally say, and we all could know that corporal punishment encompasses all sorts of physical type of punishment: hitting, spanking, shaking, pulling, even giving substances, harsh substances to kids to eat. We have heard of parents giving the hot pepper to their kids, so it's as a means of punishment. But in the school setting, where flogging is what is prevalent. I heard Mr. Sano say that during his survey, he witnessed where they asked kids to go out of the class as a part of punishment. These are all the things we want to discourage. We want our kids to learn and not to go out of class. We want to teach them a responsibility. We want to teach them the sense of honesty. We want to teach them to be matured citizens as they grow up, to be able to make decisions by themselves and not being asked out of class and not scaling the fence because they are late. This is what we want to inculcate.
Okay, so in terms of putting the policy together, from what I know, corporal punishment is sort of legalized in some of the laws we do have. So is the ministry going to approach this from a legislative reform point of view as well? Because I know of laws such as the child cruelty law, I think that was made in 1926, and even the Child Rights Act does not make corporal punishment in schools, at home, illegal.
We are going to table corporal punishment as a single entity, as a whole entity by itself. And it's also interesting to note that more than 60 countries across the world have abolished corporal punishment in their schools. In Africa, more than 30. And Sierra Leone is like an envy right now on the global stage when it comes to education. Witness to that was the Global Education Summit that we just recently attended, where Sierra Leone is now being looked at as an example to developing countries on how to really fast-track education and provide a kind of fit-for-purpose type of education. So we will not go back to that kind of, I don't want to name it a way that will appear awkward, but we want to really abolish corporal punishment in time, but following the correct procedures by engaging parents, by engaging school authorities, by engaging CPSS, by engaging NACOT, and all stakeholders, even the pupils that are involved. We need to have to get them into the conversation.
Let me ask Sano this question. Is this a push from, I would say, the Western donors and Western style of civilization and upbringing for children that has influenced this change, or does it really have an impact on the on children growing up in Sierra Leone? Because one could argue that this is a common way of bringing up children. I mean, it's people reference religious quotes from the Bible, from the Quran, which are, I would say, the two most common religious instruments here in Sierra Leone. And it's a common way of child upbringing. It's common across not only Sierra Leone, but across Africa. So is this really necessary?
For me, even in America, they are still implementing corporal punishment. I was just reading, and I know that it is still occurring there. Not every area in America, but I know that schools, up to private schools and other schools in some states in America, they are still implementing the corporal punishment. What I notice in Sierra Leone and in Africa is that we are borrowing everything. Right? And the way we are borrowing things is that they come to us and says, okay, you depend upon us for donor resources, but these are our criteria. We don't want to see pregnant girls in school. We don't want to see you beating kids. We don't want to see you doing this.
And actually, according to the Sabi report, most of the numbers who report being flogged in school at least once a day or twice a day include pregnant girls. It's pregnant girls, children with disability. Those are the two groups.
So Sabi report, I am not trying to undermine the report or disqualify the report, but sometimes this report, I've been in schools, and when I read Sabi report, I said, what is this? What is the methodology used? I want to see the tools used, because these people will bring this report because they want money, because they want.
Can I just quickly take you back? Let's not specifically speak because we do not have any rep. Let me take you back to the question Antonia asked you earlier about the impact of abolishing corporal punishment in Sierra Leone. Are we being influenced by the bigger guys? Or does this really have, an impact on the sector in kids going to school?
In fact, what I know, I believe, and I know that we are being influenced by the bigger guys, because I was thinking, I said, okay, we have several things in our schools that we need. We want our schools to be like what the schools in UK, the schools in America, you understand? Every child sits before a laptop, everything is automated. You come and print, your mother knows that you have reached the school. When you leave in school, your mother knows, you understand? When there's anything, everything is automated. I said, I was talking to somebody, I said, why can't we bring those things first before you forcing us into this? Because let me tell you what happened. Corporal punishment has its own negative and positive effects.
Because I was just going to ask if we should still go on with the corporal punishment as a means of correcting our kids in school.
I think to some extent we should go on with it, but we should be careful in doing it. Because let me tell you, even in the America or the Western world that is saying there should not be corporal punishment, they are still doing it there. But you have to do it responsibly. Because I tell you something, when I went to schools yesterday, I was around schools yesterday, teachers asking, and this is their opinion. Beforehand, the kids were wayward. The kids don't listen to us. One of the things that the kids listen to us is when they know that we have a means of punishing them. Today, you have said we should not beat them, we should not punish them. They will not be listening to us, and they will be saying, okay, we have a way to complain, to channel our complaint. And as a female teacher, I said, this is going to affect us. I know all of us seated down here, one way or the other, because of the disciplinary measures that was put in place, that was why some of us came out the way we are today.
Sano, so I don't lose my thoughts, but just quickly before moving to Sylvester Miu in our studio too. Sano just made something very critical, that he went to schools, he spoke to teachers and other stakeholders. They told him that the only means they had was flogging them. So pupils understand that no, they should not do certain things. And now they have no means of punishing them, which I'm sure that is not what the policy is saying. The policy is trying to create alternative means. Now, that speaks to the inclusive nature of the decision. Was this inclusive? Was it consultative? Did you involve all the players in the education sector when you were pushing for this and trying to develop the policy so they know exactly whether or not there are alternative measures to the corporal punishment?
Thank you very much. I have been a teacher myself for 10 years. Mm-hmm. You go to the SOS, I'm a minor, they'll tell you. And I taught where we never use the cane. We use the pen at SOS, I'm a minor. So it is not a new thing in Sierra Leone. We just want to ensure that every school, be it government-assisted, private or community school, follow the procedure of not using the cane. So we have not developed the policy, as I said. What we needed first was to have the approval from cabinet to start the processes of developing the handbook, developing the policy, and then engaging stakeholders who really matter in this conversation. Mr. Sano emphasized that flogging the keys makes the best kind of means of correcting them. I want to tell them the dangers to that far outweigh the benefits.
But let's hear from Sierra Leoneans, because we did go around and did our own homework as well to see what people think about the anti-corporal punishment initiative. So let's hear what people have to say on the issue.
I think there's a way you can discipline Pekin not to pass use cane for bitam and pull mark pana or munda. Of course, we don't see a lot of situations outside. Teacher the old Pekin, the bitam, dress the Pekin, punish the Pekin on the sun all day, you know, or even take the Pekin, tell the Pekin, maybe Pekin go get water or go sweep holes or can book for on Saturday. We've seen that kind of situation. And if you say no parent will send a Pekin at school or want to make a teacher actually beat Pekin, take him pull him mark, or the Pekin inside his school uniform, he go get water for teacher, or he left his school, he go look for teacher, or he go do all the things that we're not necessary, we're not even pertaining the purpose where he went to school for. So if the government say they're not for beat Pekin at school, I'm sure the government gets a very good intention behind that, say, when I don't beat Pekin, say when I wound when I pull mark panel. You know, some of that marks them, so me with my pen are victim of that. And to be sincere, I get 2 marks on my body. This mark there, we see so. The teacher beats me and pull and pan me. And of course, as I be the teacher, I can see the teacher, I can smile to her. But I don't ever forget these 2 marks there. They didn't have me hand as well. And I could remember one morning I go late. You know, I want to try to express myself as to why I go late, and the teacher not listening. He owed me publicly outside, he beats me and he pull mark the panel. You know, I'm not ever happy, I'm not ever pleased, even though I don't forgive him. I long go why they go school. But trust me, anytime where I see this marking on my body, now sports we go make, I always remember say, there are ways you can discipline Pekin, not to pass you double cane, 4 or 5, you hold on your hand and you decide to flog that Pekin. You don't even care about the Pekin health, you don't care about the Pekin situation, you don't care about the Pekin condition, you don't even know what the Pekin come up from, what stressful moment or stressful time the Pekin come up from, we make in goal it.
To say the beat for look in 2 ways, because we in Africa Pekin, you know they talk to and you understand or you know what you mean. Pass you shoe and the cane for them by the side. Because if we say no for beat Pekin, first of all, we dey beat them in the way world. Before I say now, we not can beat them. So to me, I feel to say you dey beat them, but you know they abuse them. You know they wound them. You can beat them, but for say you make the wound or you abuse them, now not the problem. You go beat them. Because in Africa we dey, no go copy European style kind of salon. Now that they above we dey like today too. Because we know mature age, then we want go grip European things the way they do, they can't talk. They go do a problem to my.
welcome back. Those were some views on the issue of corporal punishment. I think we got two sides of the coin there on the issue. One person, you know, even though they both seem to merge on, you know, permanently damaging the child.
Yeah.
But there seem to be contrary views on whether or not we should completely abolish corporal punishment. So I guess with that, we take the conversation over to Mr. Mew in our studio too. Good morning to you once more.
Good morning, madam.
Right, I'm sure you've been following the conversation, and as someone who has been in the education sector for quite some time, I'm sure you've heard had your own years on you for a number of years in the teaching service as well, and you've headed secondary schools. And so perhaps you might be able to shed some light on whether this initiative is something that would be beneficial or it would have unimagined consequences for discipline in schools.
I think there's a lot to be done if you want to get this thing on board. While I was chairman, Conference of Principals, some NGOs came and engaged me on this same issue. And I told them what I learned when I was in college, in the absence of discipline, no learning takes place. Learning and discipline works hand in gloves. Even if you want us to reduce corporal punishment, there are procedures that have to be followed. First of all, when we are trained as teachers, we are told it's not everybody that should flog a child. And even if the child is going to be flogged, then you should have somebody supervising it. When a teacher gets annoyed with a particular child and allow that teacher to flog that child, it's quite a serious issue. And this has created a lot of problems while I was chairman of principals. Had to go down to Connaught Hospital, have to go to police station, had to go and negotiate with parents. I had all those experiences, which were not pleasant. But what I want to say, this is something that has a long procedure that it has to go through. Before, even up to this morning, I was consulting the Head Teachers Council, the Conference of Principals. They said they don't know anything about it. They just saw it that this thing, they are going to ban, understand. But I told them it's a procedure they may have to go through. I think we need to get professionals on board if this thing is going to reduce corporal punishment in school. I'm using the word reduce because our children need some amount of discipline.
So can I personally, ask you what's your personal view on whether or not this, this policy we should go on with it as a nation, especially with your experience, in schools. Should we really kick out corporal punishment?
No, we should have alternatives. I think we should have alternatives. If we say you do this, what will you do? What are the alternative punishments you have for these children? I've emphasized learning and discipline works hand in gloves. Even where you're working here, if there is no discipline, there must be some punitive measures taken here. For workers who will not come to work in time, who do not take their work seriously, who are not suitably dressed for the job, there must be some amount of discipline. So discipline has to be on board if we want to get everything right. Well, because now we have this free quality education. We are having many, many more pupils benefiting from it and going to school. And so the more children you're having, the more challenges you'll be having. So you need to engage partners, stakeholders, seasoned people on board who are professional teachers, the parents also, let them come, and even the children, let them come and discuss this issue before.
Because I just wanted to add that the initiative is not anti-discipline, it is anti-corporal punishment. Yes. So we're talking about a specific issue, and this is why in the beginning I asked Bami for an interpretation, so that we understand the range of punishments we're dealing with. And he, I would say in summary, defined it as physical punishment.
Yeah.
So is it worth removing physical punishment? Could there be alternatives when it comes to punishing or disciplining students or pupils in schools?
It depends on the alternatives you have. The alternatives will direct you whether we are going to succeed. But punishment in any way or form is very good anywhere you are. So it is the alternative. Let us see the alternatives that they are giving, whether we see it, whether it will work. Let us discuss the alternatives. That is why I said there should be consultation, so that people will share experiences of what they have gone through in giving disciplinary action on children in schools.
All right.
Let me quickly bring Bami again. It's a little confusing in the sense that if we go to what Sano submitted earlier, that this is a Western initiative, we are being influenced. Mr. Mew is saying he has spoken to the Conference of Principals. He has also spoken to the Council of Head Teachers. None of them, nobody is aware of what you are doing. So was this just done in the conference room of the Ministry of Education? Was it done in your office? Was it done in the minister's office? And say, okay, let's take it to cabinet, and this is what we're going to go with. No consultation was done?
Okay, the Ministry of Education is, we all know, is responsible to cabinet. It's a cabinet ministry.
Right.
So when we have an initiative, the first clearance we seek for is cabinet approval. There is an initiative. That's why the press release says an initiative. So there is a time that we are going to involve the very many bodies, including the CPSS, the council, the NACOT, the parent, the school authorities, in one, developing the handbook, the handbook on alternative discipline, a positive kind of discipline. In that handbook, everything Mr. Mew is expecting will be there. And that handbook has to be handed over to the Teaching Service Commission, and training has to be conducted across the country to teachers who really, school authorities, who are the direct implementers of the policy. So that is how we viewed it as a ministry, and we have just started.
Right. I think we can hear from Sano on this. You mentioned as well in your submission that there seemed to be a lack of consultation, and that's also very important. But the policy has not been formed yet, so there's still time. But you're saying you would have preferred for the ministry to have discussed this with the relevant stakeholders before taking it to cabinet.
Well, in my 25 years of administration and in senior positions, I think when I have an initiative, I just don't sit down and put paper to pen and then among my staffs and then take it to cabinet. So when I look at it, it is what the minister and his team, right? Maybe few member of the team are put together and they they took it to cabinet, and that particular document they put together was what the cabinet took decision on. So in my minds, that was the minds of the cabinet. But what I am trying to say, but I mean, going forward, I think it is worthwhile that when we have initiative, what is for us must involve us. You cannot involve us at the end of the day. That is not administration. That is very poor management. When you have issues like this, you go to the schools, speak to the teachers, speak to the heads of school, call them on a meeting, discuss it. Maybe they will have better way than what you had. And then you discuss with them. So at the end of the day, after the discussion, when you put pen to paper, when it gets to cabinet, it will make maybe a better sense than you. So going forward, that is it. And I want to really say we are by no way against what they are doing. But what we want to see an alternative. Because let me tell you, if you spare the rod, it is stated, you spoil the child. But we are not also going to hold that as a blueprint to that, because even where they are telling us if you spare the rod, you spoil the child, came from the Western world. They gave us the Bibles and they said, pray. And they went for our minerals. And they told us the world started in Israel. At that time, they said it was Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve gave birth to unto Cain and Abel. So I was asking, where were we at that time? We still have our kings. So where were we? So the world started. How did we migrate? But yes, things, when it started here, we have our kings. We have our own rules here. But they came again and forced it upon us. And our leaders accepted it. Now they came again with pregnant girls in school, which I was totally against. Because when I went to UK, I've not seen a pregnant girl in their schools. I did not see it in America. But today, in Sierra Leone, they said we should have it. When I went to examination hall, I saw pregnant girls sleeping. Let's look at the statistics at the end of the day. Because so what I am trying to say, we want to see punishment, but carefully taught punishment. Because then we want to see rules. If the punishment is done this way, this will be the action against. You understand that person. But in a scenario, if they are saying we should avoid punishment, then we should also say we should forget about the law.
All right,
well,
stay with us.
It's interesting.
Stay with us. It's quarter to the hour now. We're going to take a quick break so that we cool off here in the studio, and then we'll come back and take some messages from our viewers.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Right, welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone. Thank you for staying with us. And you've been sending messages to our Facebook page, which we'll take now. Samuel?
Yeah. Hassan Mansuka was saying, Salon is already lawless and lacking discipline. Bringing in a nanny state and wrapping these kids in cotton wool isn't a good idea at this present moment. This is a good policy. I remember when my teacher flogged me because I was dating the girl he wanted. Until one day, I fought back. Shaku Valentino Gadri Kamara is saying, Abdul Toure is saying, for removing the corporal punishment in schools, don't you know that this will affect the school system in Sierra Leone because the schools will never take control, right? Physical punishment should be abolished. Albert Formos is saying, we're good for make laws, but implementing and enforcing them, okay. Kabo is saying that the kids of the 70s, 80s, and 90s went through corporate punishment, but getting on well in life. So these kids fears no one, whilst government authorities, police, and parents keep arguing among themselves over their welfare. Interesting takes that. Eddie Grant is saying, if children are not physically punished when they do wrong, their personal development will suffer. Government should said cautiously in introducing shirts in schools. Anyone saying corporate punishment doesn't happen in Western countries are jokers. It does happen. Patrick Wuri. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. Proverbs 13:24. The grant is two more messages. Corporal punishment signals to the child that a way to settle interpersonal conflict is to use physical force and inflict pain. Momo Pesima. Alhaji Amarakibe saying research has shown that striking a child, yelling at or shaming them can elevate stress hormones and lead to changes in the brain's architecture. Harsh verbal abuse is also linked to mental health problems in preteens and adolescents. I mean, we have quite, interesting arguments being submitted by online viewers, and we have hundreds of them here.
It's always an interesting conversation when you talk about corporal punishment.
Right.
But there's an issue now which we've been talking about even before we went on the break, and the issue of consultation. Yeah. Is it that the ministry sort of preempted that they would face some kind of resistance when it comes to corporal punishment? Is that why what we describe as relevant stakeholders have still not heard formally, aside from the press notice that was put out?
Before even coming there, I had Mr. Sano going a little exegetical. I never knew he was a man of God. You know, so, this is going to be a policy. The ministry has guidelines and the framework of developing a policy, and there is just one way that we are using. So, as I said, we have received the approval from cabinet. We are now going to ensure we engage every partner that is involved. First, I want to bring to the viewers' attention that the ministry has very formidable structure going down to the district and the constituency levels. There we have deputy directors of education across the district. The Teaching Service Commission has 2 deputy directors across the country. We have school inspectors who really give us information on a weekly basis. We have the coordinators of free quality school education. They are also down there monitoring on a daily basis. So Mr. Sano's monitoring cannot surpass those 3 or 4 structures we have called. Because we are adequately informed, that's the very reason we put together the concept note and table to cabinet. To the textiles, I want to say it was a mixed bag. But 1 or 2 captivated my attention. The one that said, and it is part of my presentation, the one that said, most of the keys now that have been used to intense corporal punishment have now been resulted to resolving conflict with violence. And we don't want to grow such citizens in this country. You could see that even the school environment has become unfriendly to some of them who are really suffering from corporal punishment. We have seen also that so many kids have disengaged academically because they are afraid of school authorities, because they have canes. We have seen where even their personal relationship with their friends is deteriorating. Right. These very kids who have been used to flogging are now the kids who disrupt classes during the teaching period. By so doing, they will disrupt the learning of their colleagues and their own learning themselves. So you see how dangerous it is we achieving the kind of quality education we are seeking. That's why we want to remove, and we want to remove that systematically.
All right. Sana, what will be your final submission on the matter before we throw it over to
my
Mr.
final submission is that we want to see the policy, but first we want to tell Bami and the ministry that when you want to discuss things like that, don't say because I have structures on the ground. I've been in your grounds, and I know what is happening, and that's not why we are here. We are not here because by the time you say that, they said you want to critique the entire system. But what I am telling you, when you want to talk about youth, involve the youth. When you want to talk about the teachers, involve them. That particular step by the ministry, not involving the heads of schools and the teachers, was a wrong one. What they did, what they should have done first is what they did last. But however, we believe we believe that at the end of the day, they will consult them. And when they consult them, we want to see an alternative. Why we want to see an alternative? Because in the United States, in England and other places, you may have 10 children, 10 kids or pupils to 1 or 2 teachers. Here, we have maybe 80 to 90 kids to a single teacher. to a single teacher. And there we have all the gadgets, you have computers, you have, it is modern, but here it is physical. So what we are trying to say, when they are doing everything, they should ensure that they involve the school authorities, and the school authority will suggest to them other means. By the way, I believe that it is but time for us to note that if we just remove punishment in totality, it will have huge effect on the entire school system.
But let's not get the conversation wrong. We're talking about anti-corporal punishment, not removal of punishment in totality.
Thank you.
So that's what we're talking about. It does not mean that the children will not be punished and they will not be disciplined, but they're talking about a specific kind of discipline, which they say is.
So we hope to see the
alternatives
policies.
that they would.
Let's see it and we discuss it, and we don't want, what is very bad is that I ask myself, why this now? We have several other things that we are suffering with in the education sector that are very important. Why is this so paramount?
Let me
it
ask,
is just because
this is
they don't know
an
this is what they
question. You know, with physical punishment, there's a common saying, "Kandawam, kandakul." You know, and people would think that it does not inflict long-term damage on children. But if you come up with an alternative that would have sort of a mental effect on the children and they're growing up, would that be equivalent to the removal of corporal punishment? Would that be equivalent? Would that be a suitable equivalent? Because we do not know on what databases the ministry is taking this decision. What has shown that corporal punishment has long-term and very damning effects on the children's mental and physical health?
Okay, so the focus of the ministry is to retain the children in school to learn. And one negative aspect of corporal punishment is it will let the kids even avoid schooling. And we don't want that one. If hitting the child is a means of telling the child leave the school, then we'll remove the hitting and we'll maintain the child in school, because that's the ultimate goal of the ministry.
All right.
But the handbook will be out. Before that, Mr. Asano will be given the opportunity to contribute, if he wants to, in the development of the handbook.
Well, as we round up the conversation now, Mr. Mew, you seem to have stated why it is important to keep discipline within the school walls and to have it in hand in glove with education. Now, from your experience, you mentioned having to go to the hospital with some parents and children as well, sometimes taking the matter to the police station. There is sort of a responsibility when it comes to corporal punishment that doesn't seem to be operating in schools at the moment. You mentioned something like a policy wherein a child should not be punished by just anyone, and there needs to be supervision whenever a child is being punished. That's physical punishment we're talking about. Yes. So, you know, how has that policy been going on currently, if we are to say we want to keep corporal punishment in schools?
The policy of supervision during punishment, it is not working in schools. Because when the teachers get annoyed, they just punish these children. But if this thing is to succeed, one, relevant stakeholders have to be involved. I am saying, when I was chairman conference of principals, some white people came and engaged me at Coquel Secondary
So we've been on this for quite too long then?
Yes. All of these issues, I will give you a lot. And if SLBC has, they will give you some of this discussion. Even on pregnant schoolgirls, they call us as SLBC, we discuss all of these issues. And some of these people will engage you, come and discuss with you. and tell you this is what will happen. People want to assist us, you understand? But you should remove this thing, you understand?
But let me ask this question then. Would teachers be willing to take on the responsibility that comes with keeping corporal punishment in schools? Because, as you've mentioned, you have to go to the hospital. If a parent suddenly decides that no, he or she cannot take this, and you have damaged their child, you have to pay their hospital bills, and you probably have to take the matter to court. Will the teachers be willing to take that responsibility?
It's been the problem. While I was chairman of principals, whenever any school has this problem, I have to come in to see what is happening. But what I'm saying, let us engage the stakeholders.
All right.
People with wealth of experience in the field, so that they will share experiences with people. We are all there, our children, and we want Sierra Leone to be the Athens of Africa. So please, let them engage other stakeholders, so that we will see that this corporal punishment have alternatives if they are going to remove it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the program. On that neutral note, we'll end this segment for this morning. It's 9 o'clock in our studios. Let's take a summary of top stories in the news, and we'll be back here on the Wake Up Sierra Leone.
EDSA presents a budget of 1.3 trillion to Ministry of Finance for 2022 to 2023 fiscal year.
To provide reliable and sustainable power supply in terms of also increasing access to certain communities, Hastings, beyond Waterloo, Devils, there are certain areas that are still not being covered by EDSA. To pursue loss reduction by 5% and allocating resources for a minimum investment of 100 billion in the distribution, supply, and commercial infrastructure. So we are also looking at every year we want to make the concerted effort to reduce the line losses. And when we reduce the line losses, right, it improves our revenue, and then it gives the ability of EDSA to evacuate more power to communities that are required or want those power. To improve on the corporate governance structure.
The key highlights of the EDSA budget is, one, we notice that EDSA services are fundamental for government, and in terms of the macro-wide efficiency of the economy, their output will translate directly into increased productivity. One, if they minimize their losses and their costs, it will help the economy to be productive. It will help the economy to generate more real output, which is beneficial. But we have not seen that 100%. We see that time consistency in their revenue projection has not been coming forth. They have been projecting higher revenues, but at the end of the day, their actual collection has fallen short of their projection. But at the same time, riding back on their higher revenues, expenditures have been growing quite sharply, which we think is not credible. So we have noted those fundamental points in their budget submission. And the next thing is we want their budget to be more comprehensive.
3 political parties disassociate themselves from the consortium of progressive political parties.
Dissociation of the C4C party from the signing of the MOU of COP signed by Malpractices, the injuncted by the High Court of Sierra Leone. The C4C party is an independent, legally registered political party in Sierra Leone. Malpractices and other members of the party have been injuncted by the High Court of Sierra Leone and from taking and carrying out any activity of the C4C party pending the determination of the matter before the court. Hence, Malpractices signing the COP MOU is not only considered a violation of the court orders, the court injunction, and thereby bringing the party's image into disrepute, but also views his activities as illegal.
The People's Democratic Party PDP survey, press statement. This association from the impersonation made by the former Secretary General Al-Haji Ben Kamara and Almami Bandua on a non-conventional member to sign a memorandum of understanding on the 13th September 2021 with the so-called consortium of progressive political parties, without the attention of the National Executive Committee of the PDP Sobe. The PDP Sobe party is seriously angry over the impersonation of a man by the name of Alamami Bangura, who is not a member of our beloved party, going and signing documents claiming to be the head of the party. This man, Alamami Bangura, has never been a member of our party and is collaborating with the suspended National Secretary General Alhaji Ben Kamara.
Frabe College Students' Union government launches campaign against exam malpractice.
Country, administrators, parents, and those of us that are students aren't ready to fight against it. I am afraid the very object of education would be affected. And you may not want to leave the university and go down and they ask you, which university are you coming from? And you tell them, I'm coming from Frabe College, and they make a statement. Their products aren't performing at all.
We have seen that students who have engaged in examination malpractice all through, when they leave university, through that process, they can't deliver when they go down. And we know that Frabe College is responsible to provide the human resource of this nation. It is the backbone of this particular nation. And if we come here as students and engage in exam malpractice, what do we hope to deliver? What do we hope to give out there when we become leaders tomorrow? So for us, we think that it is most important that we engage students to see reasons as to why we all should not engage in exam malpractice. It was once said that if you want to destroy a nation, you do not need an atomic bomb, you do not need a missile, just kill education.
And it's the fact that we want to lobby around the administration to extend the examination date. We believe that students as well have a responsibility, especially during examination, and that is not to engage in any form of examination malpractice.
And welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone, and you just saw top stories from the news. And you saw a peek there of a story we're going to show you now. Frabe College Students' Union government, which launched a campaign against examination malpractice ahead of next week's second semester examinations for students. Now, the president of the Students' Union, Adam Asila, says this is a wake-up call for all students to embrace the fight, adding that they should play a role as role models. Bransford McLean has more on this story. Let's take a look.
That was the pronouncement on the official launch of Campaign Against Exam Malpractice for students at Frabe College in the country. While speaking on the importance of holding the engagement, Ibrahim Sawane, guest speaker, says the fight against examination malpractice should be a national call, adding that there are components that need to be done for it to be achieved.
Country, administrators, parents, and those of us that are students aren't ready to fight against it. I am afraid the very object of education would be affected. And you may not want to leave the university and go down and they ask you, which university are you coming from? And you tell them, I'm coming from Frabe College, and they make a statement. Their products aren't performing at all.
Minister of Education, Fwabe College Student Union Government, Alfred Cisse, speaks on the importance of holding these engagements with their colleague ahead of their examination.
We have seen that students who have engaged in examination malpractice all through, when they leave university through that process, they can't deliver when they go down. And we know that Fwabe College is responsible to provide the human resource of this nation. It is the backbone of this particular nation. And if we come here as students and engage in exam malpractice, what do we hope to deliver? What do we hope to give out there when we become leaders tomorrow? So for us, we think that it is most important that we engage students to see reasons as to why we all should not engage in exam malpractice. It was once said that if you want to destroy a nation, you do not need an atomic bomb, you do not need a missile, just kill education.
The current president of Fwabe College Students Union Government, Adama Sila, says though they are looking on the welfare of students on campus, but all need to put effort during exam. She re-emphasized the responsibility that students should put on during examination so that they will come out with flying colors.
Amidst the fact that we want to lobby around the administration to extend the examination date, we believe that students as well have a responsibility, especially during examination, and that is not to engage in any form of examination malpractice. Already previous speakers have highlighted the challenges we face or we are presently facing with students who see it as if it's normal.
It was revealed during the engagement that students in Fwabe College will hold their second semester examination on Monday, the 28th of this month. Ransford McLean, AYV News, Freetown.
But many thanks to Ransford McLean for that story there. The campaign is a very important one and perhaps timely.
Yeah.
Since we have exams going on across the country.
Right.
So hope people out there taking exams see this.
It's very interesting, and it's for me. I think it's just ensures that we do not, at the end of the day, toy with such a very integral sector in society. Education is, I tell people, the only unfortunate part is when we think that certification is education, because we really don't get to care about
and we've seen the consequences of that.
Exactly.
With the new policy coming up from the University of Sierra Leone as well for entry requirements. Yeah. And I must state that examination malpractices do not happen on one side, not just students. The teachers, people in exams offices, the administrative staff, all of you have a role to play in putting an end to that menace.
Right.
But anyway, we move on to another conversation here on Wake Up Sierra Leone. We're going to be talking about the right to fair trial and justice, which entitles you to be heard in public by an unbiased and independent judge in a reasonable amount of time. Now, the right to fair trial and justice is essential to safeguarding a just society, and it is important, and its importance cannot be overstated. Now, it's an essential guarantee of the rule of law, and Article 6 of the Human Rights Law guarantees that right. So, to discuss this here on Wake Up Sierra Leone, we have in the studio right now Elkas Sano, the Director of Communications for the Sierra Leone Judiciary, and we're expecting to be joined by other guests to help us along with the conversation. But for now, we start with Elkas. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Right. Now, this is an important conversation, and it's one, as I mentioned, which, you know, has been talked about for years and years and years here in Sierra Leone. We talk about the right to fair trial and justice, we think about what's happening in the courts. And a couple of years ago, around 2015, 2016, the courts monitoring program was also set up to see what's happening in the court, to observe what some of the delays are to fair trial and justice. And what came out a couple of months down the line was, you know, several delays when it comes to the criminal procedure. You had delays on the part of the registry. You also had delays on the parts of the judges, which, you know, seemed to adjourn matters for lengthy period of time. So just to give us the status of what it's like now in Sierra Leone's judiciary when it comes to fair trial and justice. You can give us an update on what has been done so far to improve access to justice for Sierra Leoneans.
I am happy to be here to sincerely participate in discussion of this nature. I agree to a very large extent that over the years, the judiciary has been criticized either for the right or the wrong reasons. Judging from the fact that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission largely blamed the judiciary, referencing injustice as a major cause or one of the causes for the brutal civil war in Sierra Leone. Moving from that position to where we are now, there are still challenges, I must admit, but the reforms, the sustainable reforms are unimaginable. Not only unimaginable, has actually repositioned Sierra Leone to an extent that Sierra Leone, that was at the tail end of all indexes when it comes to human rights or rule of law, civil liberty, anything that has to do with justice, to ensuring we have our democratic tenets are being upheld, to ensuring national cohesion, to ensuring that Sierra Leone move forward, especially with the judiciary being an integral part in all of these, is very much enviable. Now, if you look at reports published by researchers, UK and ASJP, let me make reference to some of these reports here, because it's very important so that people will understand where the judiciary was and where it is now at the moment. If you look at this report, they said, "In Pursuit of Justice, a report on the judiciary in Sierra Leone." This report was supported by ASJP, Canadian International Development, and those who participated in doing this research are prominent Sierra Leonean lawyers today. Among them is one Harvard-trained Sierra Leonean lawyer, Mohamed Pamomo Fofana, and former ACC commissioner, Tijan Cole, among many other international experts that undertook this particular research. It stated that the judiciary in Sierra Leone is still in tatters. At that time, this report came out in 2002. It was published in 2002. That's their description of the Sierra Leone judiciary at the time, 2002, that the Sierra Leone judiciary is still in tatters. Moving forward, they stated in this report, among so many other things that came up, they said, at the time of research, both the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court lack qualified court registrars, and we are run by assistant supervised by master and registrar of the High Court. They even went further to say that justice or the presence of the judiciary in the provinces was very insignificant. It means justice or the operation or activities of the judiciary was only limited to Freetown, excluding or depriving people in the provinces. Among the many things they unearthed, the reason why I brought those particular excerpts is so that it serves, or they will serve as a foundation for this discussion.
Okay.
Now, if you talk about fair trial, it's not only a constitutional provision as provided in section 23(1) of the Sierra Leone Constitution. 24 also talks about the presumption of innocence of the accused person.
Right.
And apart from being a constitutional provision, it is, we also believe, the judiciary believes, fair trial is one of the foremost responsibilities of the Sierra Leone judiciary.
All right, so just on that point now, because that's what we're discussing.
Right.
When it comes to fair trial, do you agree that the judiciary still has a lot of work to do? I base this question on the fact that we still have a high number of pre-trial detainees still behind bars. You still have people in court who maybe only months down the line before they stand before a judge or a magistrate to hear their cases. So in that area, if we look at the definition of access to the right to fair trial, which means that you must see a judge, an unbiased judge, you must be heard in public in a reasonable is the word, reasonable amount of time.
Yes. In fact, what we've noticed over the years or recently is that because the operation or the activities of the judiciary has actually been misunderstood, misrepresented.
What do you mean?
What I meant is that many people are unaware to create the distinction between, because when you talk about the justice sector, the judiciary they see the judiciary taking the lead. But when you talk about the justice, the administration of justice, it is not only limited to the judiciary.
Absolutely.
We have the Attorney General and Minister of Justice office, which in fact many people don't even understand, don't know the function. So even when a particular matter starts at the magistrate court for preliminary investigation, when they are done, whilst the court will be waiting for an indictment from the DPP's office, people will come out now shouting on top of the roof, I am coming.
This brings me back to the premise I laid when it comes to the criminal procedures. What has been done to make justice accessible, and what has been done to improve the right to fair trial? Because we're emphasizing on reasonable amount of time. So if these processes which delay the hearing process in itself are still existent, then it means the judiciary hasn't done much to improve the rights for the general citizens.
I beg to differ. I am also graciously asking that you allow me to give a panoramic explanation about the current status of the judiciary.
Let's hear the panoramic explanation.
You understand? When you talk about fair trial, the judiciary sees fair trial as a foremost responsibility. And that is why when a matter is before a judge, even in a situation wherein the other party fails to come to court, the judge, because the judiciary believes in fair trial or has placed premium on fair trial, what the judge will do, will issue a bench warrant. Most of the time you hear they say bench warrant, bench warrant. Is to bring the other party to court so that your own side can be heard to ensure fair trial from the commencement of that particular case to the conclusion of that particular case. You understand? Now, what have we done in that direction? Apart from the principle of natural justice, which says audio ultra partem, here the other side, we always ensure, the judiciary will always ensure that the other party is before the court to ensure speedy, expeditious, and timely conclusion of that matter.
But that's where
Get all your breaking, factual, and balanced local and international news from AYV Direct to your mobile phone via SMS. To subscribe on AfriCell, send start to 298 and stay connected for only 300 leones per day.
Wondering how to cash in using AfriMoney? Here are a few easy steps. Go to the nearest AfriMoney agent. Tell them how much you want to deposit. Give the agents your number and the cash. You will receive an SMS notification from 161 confirming the deposits. To check and confirm your balance, dial *161 *9*1# and enter your PIN. Remember, you do not have to pay extra for deposits. Cashing is free.
To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation, forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
All right, welcome back. We apologize for that break. We were having some technical each there. And now let's welcome with us in the studio Samuel Momodu Conte, Esquire, Managing Partner, CC and Associate Law Firm. And he is one of those representing Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Well, thank you.
All right, first let's put the conversation into context. Let's go out there and just listen to what people have to say with regards this particular topic.
Well, as we know idea, the big slap to in the Kamarimba, because like then if I don't try for people work to the bail condition, but when it not happen, so to me no idea, we are the breach of our government, and then we see reason for rank, and then they bail, especially the judiciary. Let them get bail, let them sorry for get bail, so that we appear in courts. Because if they are now, although they don't commit crime, although they don't find them guilty, they say don't commit, the whole of accused courts, let them get bail, they appear until they find them guilty or not guilty.
Because the man don't suffer 2 months. The man don't suffer 2 months, let them pull him.
According to this man, with them don't hold. If you don't grant to bail, himself, you go down and consider the left hand, you can pay like 100 million. That's what I'm saying, if you are 100 million. But if the man not be able to get the money, or even if he gets it, if you're a citizen, government knows that man is a citizen at this point, everybody knows he's a citizen. Then one of the aspirants are for flag bearer for Sierra Leone. I think, say, what is the government for you? Let Pandora man do. Let the fact for God. Because we don't know what is for happen tomorrow. You happen today, but we don't know that at the next person. So we are not concerned on it. Let the facts.
All right, welcome back. We've heard from the people out there what they think specifically with regards to the case of Mohammed Kamarimba Mansai, who has been granted bail but not released. So let me draw you. That's basically the juice of the conversation. Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari has been granted bail by the courts after spending a little over a year behind bars. The court granted him bail. But the process of releasing him, or the process of letting him go according to the judiciary, is one that is becoming too cumbersome now for Mohammed Kamarimba to enjoy that bail which the court has granted him. And the court has been accused that it has been politically influenced, that Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari has been granted bail, but there's this politics going on in the court that, okay, the law says, he has rights to bail, and we've granted him bail. But let's see on what grounds we can still keep him here. What's the problem with Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari's bail condition?
Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari, like any other accused person, is not before the courts as a politician. We don't see him as a presidential candidate.
Right.
We don't see him as a member of any political party. We see Mohammed Kamarimba as an accused person who is before the Sexual Offences Model Court to answer to 8-count charges. Now, since the commencement of that matter or that case, Mohamed Kamarimba was granted bail by the presiding judge.
Right.
Because when he talks about bail, bail is the exclusive right and unfettered discretion of the honorable judge, which is the major reason why, as a lawyer, when you are before the court, you always canvass the court to ensure bail is granted to the accused person or your client. In the case of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari is not the only person. We have the co-accused, who is Marion Aruni.
Right.
And aside from Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, who was or is still under detention, we have more than hundreds of accused persons who are before the court for similar offenses. Like I stated, referencing the Criminal Procedure Act, Section 79, 1, 2, and 3, what the judiciary did, in as much as the Criminal Procedure Act says it is the discretion of the judge, but to make the justice system very fair and open and expeditious, there was a bail regulation out of a constitutional instrument in 2008. That bail regulation is there to guide the judge.
To guide the discretion of the judge.
Exactly. Now, in the case of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, we've passed those stages.
Even before arriving at that stage, human rights advocates, including his defense team, I mean, were strongly of the view that the court was violating his rights to fair trial as enshrined in the 1991 Constitution, which takes precedence even over the Criminal Procedure Act you're referencing. And so for them, what they are now experiencing, the tracks were laid from those moments when he was never granted bail, especially when you set up a special court to expedite cases, I mean such cases.
Now, to enhance fair trial,
right,
as provided for in Section 23(1) of the Sierra Leone Constitution, what we did is to ensure that to allow, because we think he should benefit from fair trial as part of the foremost responsibility of the judiciary in ensuring that you create a level playing field, the impartiality of the judge, you ensure that the trial is in an open court.
All right,
I am coming.
No, I just want to, because we're slowly running out of time and we need to discuss this matter and be done with it. There's an issue now with the bail of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari. He was granted bail and he had certain bail conditions to fulfill. The news is that he has fulfilled some of the conditions and some he hasn't met. Is that the case? Is that why he has not been released? Would love to hear from the judiciary what the issue is, what the delay is.
Certainly. I am sure severally you have engaged me on Kamarimba's issue.
Right.
And the position is still remain the same. We are unwavered on when it comes to that position. What does that mean? It means like the other accused persons who were or have been granted bail with a bail condition, the Master and Registrar's Office has a responsibility to ensuring that that bail condition is being fully fulfilled.
Right.
Or to ensure total compliance.
All right. Well, let's hear from one of the lawyers of Cameroon as to what the situation is. Samuel.
Thank you very much. First, I must say, it was not my thoughts that we were going to discuss Mohamed Kamaremba Mansare under the principles of fair trial. However, the fact that my brother here from the judiciary has made heavy weather about certain things on same, I am compelled, without fear or favor, to comment on same. First, there are several instruments that guarantees fair trial. He has mentioned the Constitution of Sierra Leone, Section 23(1), which talks about fair trial. But mark you, Section 23(1) cannot be read devoid of 23(4). 23(4) talks about the issue of being innocent until proved guilty, or you plead guilty. Now, my client has pleaded not guilty, so he should be presumed innocent. That is one. Second, international treaties or conventions. You have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Article 7 talks about fair trial. And the African Charter did not say so in a limited way. It went in extension to do a whole, what you will call resolution, that is called the right to recourse and procedure, recourse procedure and fair trial. In extension, it talks about all of these, including the Universal Declaration. Now, let me narrow it down to the constitutional provision. Well, now the Section 79, 1, 2, and 3 that my brother mentioned. First, I must state Section 79 has nothing to do with my client's case. That I say because Section 79(1) deals with treason and murder. So it only falls squarely under 79(2). Okay? The circumstance has not been that my client has not fulfilled his bail conditions. With the greatest respect to my brother and the judiciary, the conditions of the bail has been to everybody's knowledge. 100 million. 2 sureties in like sum. One of the sureties must be a owner of a house, ordinarily resident in Freetown. And the accused person, the first accused, should submit to the master and registrar all relevant traveling documents, if any, whether local or international. Now, I will tell you without hesitation that we have submitted all of those mentioned without hesitation. We have the 2 sureties, ordinarily resident. We have produced house book for one of the sureties. We have produced my client's current passport. I must take the opportunity to state that my client is a Sierra Leonean citizen and only a Sierra Leonean citizen. Yes, he was ordinarily resident in the USA for about 12 years. Give and take. But he had come back since 2011-12. We all saw him all over the media in 2012 and 13, leading to the elections of 2012 and shortly afterwards and thereafter. Yes, he had had a residential permit in the USA, but that was all. And we all know that it's settled law in the USA that if you are an ordinarily resident person and you leave the state for over a year, you forfeit it. Now, this my client attempted to inform the judiciary about by way of putting together an affidavit without my knowledge. Did the first affidavit and said he had never had a U.S. passport, a foreign passport, including U.S., because that's what the judiciary is emphasizing on, U.S. citizenship. And I looked at the affidavit after it had been submitted to the master because I was out of town. And I told him there was a problem with the clause. The word ever. No, you cannot say you have never had any other traveling document because this is a new traveling document. And mark you had told me that your traveling documents previously had perished in a fire accident in your house in McKinney. Everybody knew in Sierra Leone that in 2018, Kamayemba's house in McKinney was burnt to ash. 2 a.m. in the morning. Everybody knows. And that was reported to the Panla Police Division, which is in fact very close to his residence at the Kabbalah Highway. Now, I will talk about the report before I conclude. The fact was that I now informed the master about my conversation with my client and told the master that we were going to get my clients to do another affidavit to the effect to correct the use of that word ever, because he had had a passport which perished. In fact, it was that Sierra Leonean passport that perished that contained all other traveling documents to every other country that he has traveled to. But the current passport which he took shortly after that house was burnt, he had only traveled not out of the Mano River Basin, only to Guinea. But the judiciary said it is not possible that it is just a laissez-passer to Guinea that he could have had. They should bring US passport. Or I should write the United States Embassy to ask them to inform me, and by extension the judiciary, that my client is not a US citizen. Sorry, my client does not have a US visa. That's what the grounds for approval of the bail. First of all, it's not that he is not being released. No. He was granted bail, but that bail has to be approved, and it has not been approved. Let us use the proper terminologies. It should be approved by the master and registrar.
And approval gives him, gets him out of...
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
You understand? So, the approval, for the approval, the master says, A, she was not satisfied that the initial shorty was ordinarily resident here, since she was a US citizen. We have given her documentation and every other proof to show that she's been ordinarily resident here for at least 5 years. And in fact, she's running businesses, including a hotel in Sierra Leone, for the last 5 years and beyond. So now the master is satisfied she's ordinarily resident. Now, then the weight is thrown to the American embassy. And I requested that the master, being the master and registrar of the High Court of Sierra Leone, writes the American embassy. It will be so easy for the American embassy to reply the master in no moment. But the master said, I should do it. Again, I saw El Cassano making heavy weather about that. That I refused, quoting me on 98.1, that I refused to write the American embassy. In fact, to his dismay, the very Friday, this was not just El Cass alone. There was another media person. His name is David Conte from Eagle something online. He said, I refused. Spelling my content with a C. I take it as an offense, in fact. You understand? He said, I refused to write the American embassy, failing to note that, in fact, the very day I had this conversation with the master in the presence of El Cassano, and we were only the persons there, together with myself and my sureties, I wrote the American embassy on the 10th of September. The American embassy, I got back to the master and registrar. I have written the American embassy informing her, and she said, well, okay, if they've not replied, let us leave it with the American embassy. Forget about it now. Let us now go for that report to show that this passport was burnt. And I left Freetown. I went to McKinney. First, I placed calls. I sent some of my juniors who are ordinarily resident in McKinney practicing. And I told them to make the inquiries necessary, go to the police station. And they went there, spoke with the crime officer. They had prepared us a report. And I have a snapshot of that report. for which they will say, yes, the fact is my client's house was burnt and they had reported it in 2018. Period. That's all Master wanted. She did not want us to say anything beyond that, or the report to say
And
anything beyond that.
You got that for her?
With the greatest respect, we've not gotten that for her.
Okay.
We went there and the LUC came shortly afterwards when the crime officer was to have signed the report and handed it to my junior, one of my juniors. And unfortunately, when the LUC came, he now made everywhere. He said, oh no, we cannot release this report. You have to go and write a letter to the Inspector General of Police, copy the Director of Crime Service, copy the Regional Commander Northeast, copy the LUC, copy this, copy that. And I was of the position, my client is, in fact, as far as that case is concerned, your client is your complainant. Your client is your complainant. This is your client now asking you to give him a report of what he had reported to you and asked you to inquire after. If you had done a diligent job, should you be arguing your client to hand him back a report of what you had done on his matter? No. The procedure does not say so. However, we still painstakingly did that letter. We took it to the police to the police headquarters and left it with the dispatch. To our surprise, the dispatch officer told us that they cannot dispatch a team to McKinney with that letter. If you can
quickly sum up, because we're
that's what I'm doing.
Chased by time.
That's what I'm doing.
Go ahead.
The dispatch officer said, we have to take the letter ourselves to McKinney. And I said, this is a novelty. That is not the procedure. We leave it to dispatch. Dispatch sends it to all their relevant directors. Now, in any case, I left Freetown and went to McKinney. I was in McKinney, met with the LUC, together with my colleagues, and the LUC, I had spoken with the IG before that. Before going, on Thursday, the IG picked up the call. Immediately I called him and said he thought I was there already. I said, no, I just wanted to let you know that I will be leaving in any moment. And I went to McKinney. Finally, after a day, on Saturday, the IG and the LUC spoke in the morning through my junior because I was still away attending to something else.
Can we get that done in a minute?
Yes.
Quickly.
And the LUC informed us thereafter that the IG told him not to hand us the report, rather to send him the entire file, and that it is he, the IG, who should now prepare that report and give it to us. I came back to Freetown very annoyed, and I communicated that with the master and registrar. We're still to square one. Now, why would the Sierra Leone police, which should be working in tandem with the judiciary, not do the right thing?
Okay. Let's bring in our viewers quickly. They've been sending in comments. Osman Kamara is saying, reasonable time, deficiency in the jurisdiction process, praying for transformation. Freetown Bobo is saying, justice delayed is justice denied. Okay. Listen to his panoramic. Okay, let me skip that. If you have a court case and you did not show up and you have no good reason for that, automatically you lose the case. Dauda Fona is saying. Panoramic view, a 3D version. Let me just skip those things. Produces the truth in justice. That's another deficiency in that institution that needs redress. Had a traffic offense court to attend one day. I forgot to attend. I was slammed with 3 points and a fine. Arthur Tucker is saying, you can see the crook in... Please, let's just be respectful. You seem more interested in pursuing the Sierra Leonean fire issue than Kamarimba's American status. I wonder why. It seems like you are part of the big game plan that wants to see King Butu absconding to America, but the master and registrar smart person are interesting.
All right, I think we should end the messages there and let Elkas have time to respond. There seems to be, as we've heard from the lawyer himself, several issues regarding Kamarimba's bill, and some of these issues were not stated initially in the bill conditions. For instance, having to go back to the Sierra Leone police in order to obtain a report for a fire incident. So the weight comes back to the Sierra Leone judiciary. If you could just respond in 2 minutes because we do not have time left.
Yes, sadly, we don't have enough time. All the master and registrar is trying to, the master registrar is bent on, is to ensure total compliance. My brother seated here will agree with me that when you have a case before a judge, you've canvassed the court, a bail is granted, then there is a bail condition. Your responsibility is to ensuring that the accused person or your client fulfills those bail conditions. In regard to going to PAMLAB or, like you stated, police report or whatsoever, we are not part of the bail conditions. Yes, bringing the judge did not ask for police report, but they see that as a rudiment to add to the documents to be able to convince or to meet with those requirements. I am coming, please. I am coming. I am happy that he gladly stated very unapologetically that yes, when he was not there, there was a mistake or an error in the first affidavit, that in the very affidavit, quote and unquote, to him, he believes that the language used there never had, for him, was wrong, was not appropriate, and did not meet even the threshold of what will have convinced the court. This is coming from him.
That is not what I said. Don't impute your words into my mouth.
Please.
Listen, don't impute your words into my mouth.
Please,
Okay,
Mr.
please
We have,
quickly.
yes, you are not the moderator.
Don't impute your words.
Yes, you are not the moderator here. Now, he said when he came, they also presented another affidavit. Now, what actually happened? To them, they told in my presence, like he stated, I was there in the Master and Registrar's office. Master and Registrar's office is a reputable office, and therefore she wants to ensure they do the right thing.
Let me say this. Because we don't have all this.
Yes. Let me say this. Now, when they present that document, that foreign, it states that both national and foreign traveling documents. When they came, they said the documents therein, that is to show that Kamaremba was not only, or had not only possessed the new passport that was presented. That was the time when they came to tell us that the other document that will actually convince the court.
Unfortunately, we have to hold you down.
To prove that
we have to cut you short. We have to cut you short. We have to cut you short, gentlemen. I'm afraid we do not have time. We do not have time. We have to cut you short. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Tonia?
Right. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. But this is where we'll end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. Our quote for today says, "Excessive power leads to dictatorship. Our constitution must promote democracy and not authoritarianism." That quote comes from Nafi Mustafa, a writer and social activist.
All right, we say many thanks to our sponsor, Local Commercial Bank, for their support too. The program continues to stay with every Friday as we have other exciting programs coming up. Till we meet again here on Wake Up Sierra Leone with more interesting topics. We've been your presenters. I am Samuel Weisbangura.
And my name is Antonia Howard, wishing you a great day out there.
You're watching AYV Television.